You mentioned Charlize Theron, and I actually watched Monster, her Oscar-winning performance of Aileen Wuornos, before I watched your documentary. And there have been loads of documentaries and books and podcast episodes all telling Aileen Wuornos' story. But I think something that differentiates your project from those is that you are exploring the potential why Aileen did what she did. And Aileen said she turned into a serial killer. But when she's talking about with Jasmine her past and enduring sexual assaults and her really tragic childhood, she's talking about that really flippantly. It's almost like she's talking about what she ate for lunch the day before or something like that. And then you also in the documentary have a conversation between Dawn, one of Eileen's childhood friends, and the filmmaker Jasmine about how they felt what happened to Aileen in her childhood paired with the sexual assaults that she endured really contributed and were some of the driving factors as to why she did what she did. What do you think? What do you think about the why there?
It's really interesting that you make reference to how flippant and how she glosses over her childhood in that way. Because I think when I first sat with watching the interview, I kind of was like, how do you, it's so throwaway. And I think what we now understand is what the impact that trauma has, right? And I think Eileen was so resistant to this idea that she was seen as a victim. And I think had she been a bit more comfortable with that, I think perhaps, we wonder if maybe her understanding and the sympathies for her might have been slightly different. But that's certainly a hallmark of that interview, is how kind of throwaway she is about it all. And I think we understand now, that's the privilege of being 30 years down the line and looking back. It's like we have a kind of trauma informed understanding. We know that people can be both a perpetrator and a victim, and those could be two sides of the same coin. The why, as I say, is just so hard to get to grips with. But in terms of like why she behaved like that, I think many people say lots of people were abused and they don't go out and commit murder in that way. But I think trauma feels like a really big word to try and kind of unpack and understand. And some of the voices that we had in the film really helped us kind of understand her. But also I think people tend to fall into two camps about Eileen. They're either conceiving of her as I said, this kind of premeditated, as the prosecutor in the film, John Tanner, very much typifies that. She was taking everything from these men and she took their lives. And then also people can see her as like a hapless victim who life happened to. And actually what we discovered through sitting with the story in the archive is that she's so much more complex than that. She's really aware of her notoriety and her celebrity and kind of enjoys it. And there are much thornier, complicated sides that those characterizations don't do justice to.